Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be with you here today. We've got an incredible conversation coming at you. Before we jump off, I want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Lux Neuro, Neurofeedback, offering neurofeedback and counseling where your heart and mind align. For more information about what neurofeedback can do for you, listen to the Neurofeedback Stories of Transformation in the middle of this podcast. Neurofeedback effectively treats everything from insomnia, anxiety, depression, trauma, ADHD, and much more. So go optimize your brain today. A special shout out to Declan James Watches. They are local and veteran owned with 10% kicking back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. Go check them out. And last but not least, our very own Colorado Clownfish Swim School, where they are doing swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in the life skills through sports. So go waterproof your family today. Let's jump into our conversation. I would love to welcome the Dr. Eileen Forrestal to TNT. Here we are.
Well, yes. Hello, Kristen. Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're jamming. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're both rocking awesome black glasses. So we're already matching. We're already in alignment. I'm going to read her bio because she's an outstanding mission-driven human as we are on TNT. So I want to make sure we cover all the boxes and then we'll jump in. Eileen is a retired medical doctor and co-founder of Get Up and Go Publications Ltd. It's committed to the big purpose, that of contributing to the well-being of humanity through the healing power of words that inspire, motivate, encourage, and empower others to be at the source of their own health, well-being, and happiness. She's the author of the Memoir, The Courage to Shine, Find Your Voice, and Discover the Healing Power of Your Words. Eileen is now using her voice to share her unique insight, wisdom, and experience, encouraging others to confidently shine in their own light and be the difference that they want to see in the world. I love all of that. Eileen, let's go. Tell us a little bit about young Eileen. We always like to unpack the young person, the human behind the mission before we get to the mission.
Okay. Well, the human behind the mission was a very far cry from the human today. Thank goodness I've grown into this. Yeah, no, a lot of my story, what I wrote about it was the human I was when I was little was a very kind of unhappy, very kind of I wouldn't say traumatized, but the way things happen in life. And I ended up, about 3.5, I developed a stammer. So I got an accidental overdose of aspirin. I had a stomach washout. And really between the trauma of all of that, I just developed a stammer. So my speaking was just something I just did not want to do. I just wanted to hide my voice. I thought if I don't speak, people would think I'm normal because as soon as I opened my mouth, they knew and I knew. So I just, I tried. I looked at how everybody else was speaking and how come the words just fell out of their mouths and they couldn't fall out of mine. They got stuck in wherever. So a lot of it was just very, very kind of struggle like that, so that whole world of self-expression was kind of denied. And when I was a teenager, I just got so frustrated. I just said, that's it. I'm going to stop. I'm just not going to try anymore. It's just, I give up. So I just really kind of stopped trying and I just went kind of quiet. Now I didn't go completely quiet, but anywhere that looked like I was in any sort of stressful situation at all, I'm just not going to do it for you. You can forget it. I'm not going to. The answer is no.
Yeah.
So that was the young person. And and then I kind of went into medicine. It sounded like a really good idea. It was the longest course in college. I thought nobody's going to ask me any questions. It wasn't like school. You just had to do exams and, I could pass exams. I could do tests, no problem. Just don't ask me to speak. And medicine was the longest course in college. So I did that. And then I qualified and I thought, oops. So I had a career then. And then I chose a very kind of a silent part of medicine where, most of my patients, all of my patients were asleep.
Wow. Okay.
And I had very heavy duty drugs.
Yeah.
And I could keep you asleep. I really could. And then I could wake you up and I could do all sorts of, pain relief. And I had like an amazing selection of drugs. And really, at a certain point, I thought, wait a minute, there's something missing here. What about words? So I got involved in the world of words and I thought they're just as powerful.
Yeah. What this is wild. This is a perfect turmeric and tequila juxtaposition of extremes where you had this childhood experience that kept you silent and then you leaned all the way to the other side, the tequila side, and used your words as the base of like your mission. Do you think that experience as a young human, I don't know if you are spiritual or I always say God, universe, Madonna, I'm a big Madonna fan, what you believe, but like do you feel like some of that early those that breakdown and situation as a kid happened for a reason because it was responsible for your entire trajectory?
Well, I would think somewhere, I like that Shakespeare quote, there's a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them as we will. So,
Hey.
we can keep kind of going and doing what we're doing, but somewhere is this divinity. And at some point we have to say yes
Yeah. Yeah.
to that, and I suppose, such a refusal for a long time. And then when somebody said, Eileen, you have to stop doing this, like just, you're a grown up now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's nobody else going to do it for me. Nobody's going to put their, drag the words out of my throat. I have to actually just do this myself. So I kind of said, okay, I'll give it a go. And then I gave it a go and I thought, this is not so bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
So,
tell me about that pivot point because I think that's really powerful. Like if we're, down in life or there's something we've kind of had all these coping mechanisms or designed our life to go around the thing we fear the most. What was the pivot point for you where you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm doing this something different? And what was your first step in making that change?
oh, well, the first step was just really being willing to listen to somebody else. I was so stuck in my own view. This is the way it was. This was me. And then when somebody says, it doesn't have to be that way, I said, of course it does. This is the way it is. No, it doesn't have to be that way. And it's like that glimmer is like, oh my goodness, what if it wasn't this way?
Yeah.
Like, what if it wasn't? So there's a glimmer there that sort of says, gosh, maybe I don't have to kind of stay in this kind of tortured world that I put myself in. Maybe there is an escape route. And maybe
Yeah.
it's just being willing to listen and being willing to, as I said, accept somebody else's contribution and let somebody else kind of take the reins for a while. Not like they're telling you what to do, but they really are inviting you to think and to really think clearly. Like, is this the way you want your life to go? Like, really?
Mm.
You can carry on. It'll be no problem. People will be fine. But really, is there something else that you really want to do? And you got to go back then and retrace. And I think, because really what would have, my mother especially would have always felt, I should be in politics or journalism or the law or whatever, because herself and myself now would kind of hammer it out a bit. She was a very safe bet to talk to. She could wait forever for the words to come out. But, because, my grandfather had been involved in politics and everybody was said, oh, and I thought, well, if I hadn't had a stammer, what would I have done? I could have been a teacher. I could have been a politician. I could have been a journalist, all those things. And here I am like an anesthetist. And while I'm successful as an anesthetist, I don't really want to be successful as an anesthetist. I'd much rather be successful as a, as I don't know, maybe just a speaker. Not what I'm doing now. Look, this is it. I mean, I do love it.
Yeah. What a wild journey though. I mean, with all those years of being quiet and not letting the light shine, when you turn that point, you must have had a ton to say because you had been quiet all this time. I mean, seriously, did you feel like you were going to explode with thought and shine and everything because it was building up?
A little bit like that. It was like I could nearly talk for Ireland. I could just keep going, just keep
Yeah.
asking me questions. I'll keep going. It's like I listened for a long time. Like I did listen to a lot of people and I listened and listened and listened. And then when it came to speaking, I thought, okay, I mean, there are things that are worth saying and there are things that, that are kind of just more of the same.
Yeah.
And then it's like, maybe I could put a different spin on it. So a lot of people would have said I was kind of wise beyond my years. Maybe I was listening to older people.
Yeah.
And that there was a wisdom there. And when I started doing the diaries, I started to kind of distill some of that wisdom and make it accessible to people, like in small bite sizes. And I just kind of felt that was, there are things worth saying and worth repeating. And there are things that really are not worth saying and not worth repeating. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I do
That
like.
That's very interesting. So tell me, as someone, I think we have a lot of people that have these breakdowns and breakthroughs, and then that courage to like really step into the light, whether it's your voice or your music or your podcast or what have you. What do you think really gave you the courage to be out there and be like, I know not only that I've been listening for all these years, but I have all this intel and this intel can be beneficial for this world. What was your courage point where you could say, all right, I'm taking the stage and we're going to share this?
Well, the courage point was always encouragement. You have to, it's encouragement and you have to resisting encouragement.
I love that.
So it's accepting encouragement and then saying, okay, I'll give it a go. I'm willing. I'm willing. And my next book it's Embrace the Edge. It really is. It's being willing to say yes. So it's life is bigger when you say yes. And I was so no, 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 I can't. No, don't ask me. No, I don't want to. No, I'm not able. No, I can't. No, 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 no. And then it's like, Eileen, say yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went, all right then. I said, maybe.
You compromised it, maybe.
I compromised it, maybe. And then that was the one that opened the door. It's like, and it was just choose something different. And I said, okay.
Yeah. Well, so tell us about, you've got the book, but tell us about your journey right now. Like, what do you have going on that you're super excited about? You've got, Pocket Pearls card deck, and you've got some of these other initiatives to help people along. But tell me what you're excited about, what you got going on right now with all this wealth of experience in your background.
Well, I'm excited. I'm writing my second book, so I'm really kind of enjoying that, and it's I got stuck, like, I'm trying to do the last chapter, which is like surrender and let go, which is a very
Ooh,
challenging chapter because
okay.
there's lots of things you have to surrender in life. And, my dog died this week, and,
Oh my God. I'm
oh,
really,
that's
I'm sending you love right now. I have 3 dogs and they're my whole world. So I know how
oh,
heavy of a
thank you,
heart you
thank
have.
you.
That's very
Yeah.
serious. Okay.
Yeah. So there is that surrendering kind of one life, letting go
Mhm.
of it and then kind of embracing the next stage, So she was kind of my constant companion. She always
Mm.
liked my muse, they're very silent little Cocker Spaniel, adoring
Mhm.
everything, do no
Oh,
wrong, got me out into the woods like every day.
hey.
But there is that sense. So that's really, I suppose, really, I'm kind of back into the words and how I can actually communicate, that we have to let things go at time. We
Mhm.
can't keep everything around us. We let things go, and then hold on to things that we are really worth holding on to, so holding on to like really good memories and holding on to that, the way, I think the way I kind of, the way you get to be around small animals
Yeah.
is a kind of a nice way to be. Certainly for me, you're kind of kind and you're sort of very generous, and there's just a nice way to be around animals, and maybe humans make it more difficult.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
just to remember, that we can be this way, and then share it around. So anyway, I'm excited about getting my say the next book kind of finished and get that into shape. And then, as I say, I just did finish the Pocket Pearls, which is just a card deck. And I really thought, I really like card decks because they're kind of instant. Just pick a card.
Yeah.
And I always think, you're going to pick the one. You're going to pick the one today. You just are. That's the way the universe is designed.
Yeah.
You'll pick what you need, or you'll keep picking them until you find the one you need. But really, yourself when you're hearing the thing that you need to hear. So, they're the kind of things. And I my coaching and mentoring and just ordinary conversations. That's really what I love to do. Just encourage people, empower people. I was in a shop today and there was an artist and I was really, really encouraging her. She was just like hiding. I said, no, please don't hide. These are beautiful, beautiful stuff. Why are you pointing to everybody else's and not your own? So yeah, just that little encouragement, words of encouragement.
Oh man, I love that. But first we gotta say, like, animals over humans all day long. And I will extend my energy to you the rest of this week because I know how big of a piece of the puzzle they are in our world and what a
Yeah.
blessing they are. So if you're out there and you're wondering how to be happy, go get a dog. And if that doesn't make you happy, get 2 more. Hence I have 3. So
Yeah.
have a fleet of animals. It really does make such an energy difference. And
Mhm.
which I want to talk about because I think there's such power in letting go and honoring the joy that came from your life, whether it's an
Yeah.
animal or a human or experience. It's really big. But give us some intel around letting go. I think this is kind of in my world as, I'm shifting to, get to the next level, which as an athlete, it's probably will never, I'll be like that forever. But letting go of the past or letting go of traumas or letting go of experiences is really, really hard, even when you've had the intel and the practice to do it. What is some
Mhm.
of your good advice about leaning into and really letting go of stuff that just no longer serves you and you just want to move forward?
Yeah. Well, I think somebody said it once. I don't know who said it, but it was when your vision of the future is more compelling than your memory of the past, things will change. So I'm a big fan of, envisaging the future. We have a lot of capacities to imagine things. I'm big into kind of vision boards and, you know, picking out like what really would I like life to be like in a year or in 5 years or 10 years, and just go all out, like go all out there with your imagination.
Yeah.
And then it starts to kind of take a shape as like, oh, this is the future. I could, these are things I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. That could work. It doesn't have to be that it would or that it will or that it has to, but you start to open up kind of your imagination for the future of how it could be when you start to think, what do you really, really want that you don't have yet? And then we do have to let go. We've got to let go our youth, let go, certain ideas I might have had in the past, and then think, well, actually turn them into something, and then say, well, what actually, is kind of now available, like looking at and I like to see what other people are doing. Like I was, recently I met a woman, a really, really inspiring woman. She was 85 and she was absolutely flying around the world. And she was, delivering this, leadership programs in universities around the world. And I said, oh, I'll do that. And she said, do you want to go? And I said, yes, please. So I found myself in Uganda for a month, like all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere.
Okay.
So, and, it's like, oh my goodness, these are whole new opportunities that when you're listening and you're just wondering, but you have to be focused on the future. You have to really turn your eyes and then focus really and get that vision board out, get that journal out and start writing down those dreams or reliving dreams or looking at other people, seeing what they're doing and saying, oh, could I do that too? I wonder, could I do something like that?
Yeah.
And then, go play in that one because as I say, past is gone.
And you say yes to it. I mean, you're such a bright light and I love the energy. I like to think I'm tapped into source, and on the podcast I say God, universe, Madonna, whatever you believe. I'm a big Madonna fan.
Yeah.
But tell me about, like, what do you believe? Are you religious? Are you spiritual? Where's the energy? Because I can see the bright light quite literally. Like, where does this shine come from?
Honestly, I have no idea.
We'll go with Madonna then.
I could say the light here in front of the screen. But I think it is that look into the light. It's I mean, it's interesting. I was again in my writing. Some bits you want to put in the book and some bits you leave out. But I was saying, my mother died, 10 years ago, and again, you let that go. I became an orphan. It's like, oh my goodness, you have to let your mum go. But she called me Eileen, and Eileen is, it's kind of an Irish version of Helen, and Helen is light. And I thought, oh, okay. So, she gave me that name. So I can, and for a long time I hid it. Like I wouldn't smile at a camera. I wouldn't come on. I wouldn't smile at you. I was miserable. I mean, really, don't ask me to smile. But, now it's a much easier, it's an easier process, I think. And yeah, so, and then the other thing when I was saying that, when I tapped into my kind of grandfather, had I followed in his footsteps, he was a writer and he used to contribute to a magazine back in the early 1900s. It was called On Clive Sullish, which was the Sword of Light. And he was a very kind of insightful writer. And I thought he used to write plays, but he was political and he did end up sort of in jail a couple of times, probably for his writing. But, that was the turn of the state, it was like we were back in the, before our War of Independence. But I don't mean to get political, but he was very much involved in that. And so all of that, I just think, bringing the light and, going towards the light. And, I spend a lot of time in trees and they grow towards the light and, flowers go towards the light, and then darkness is an absence of light. So keep looking for the light, keep focusing on the light, just keep turning on the lights, candles, lights. It's Christmas time now and it's full of lights, the whole lights around Christmas time, and just always keep looking for the light. There's a lot of darkness in the world, but you have to, go shine a light.
Yeah. Do you have good words of advice for people that are holding back, but they know they have something to say? Like, how do you let that light shine? Like, how do you step into it?
You just be willing.
Yeah.
You just be willing. And it's just a kind of willing. And then an opportunity will show up and there'll be an invitation or something. And then just be willing just to give it a go. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right. Just being fearless, I feel like. Do you have a good daily practice or weekly practice, whether it's yoga or daily routine or anything that helps keep you grounded and staying in the light?
Oh, I'm saying about my dog. I mean, she took me down in the woods every day, and that was kind of thing that kind of kept me, and she was such a smiley dog. You'd have to smile at her, So I suppose now, I have her photograph is on my screensaver. So she smiles at my screensaver. And I did put a little photograph, which sits beside my mom. So they're smiling. So it's just to keep looking at things that make me smile. I'll put around the place and words around the place that just bring a little kind of just a glimmer. I mean, I love color. I have, lots of just things that make you smile. And I'll, phone somebody up who's generally going to kind of, going to have a kind of a friendly, chatty, smiley conversation. I like comedy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but nothing particular. I don't really. I'm not. Unlike yourself, I'm not very sporty. I was never sporty. Never.
That plays both sides, because I was, athletic, and I had to learn how to be still. So we have two sides of the coin where we both have to find that in between. It isn't easy. Whether I'm not like a super daily practice person, but I do, I work out, I do my things, but the rigidity of a routine isn't really my personality. But I do have practices, and on the podcast we talk a lot about, mental health and community. Tell me a little bit about like the humans, like people you keep around you to, if you're having an off day, you lean on one of them, or if they are having an off day, you lean back to them. Like, tell me about the community you involve yourself in.
Yeah, I think there is that. You find yourself, and I would be very little. There's because I've retired out of the medical community, and I found when I was in the medical community, a lot of it was very medical talk,
Mhm.
and it became very much, about diagnosis and illness, and you were kind of involved in that world. And then when I moved into kind of the entrepreneur world and into the world of words, and especially around when I was doing the diaries and doing the journals, you just get, I really got just very much involved in really the power of words, the healing power of words. And I suppose that's really just where I really try and just keep myself in that. And it isn't even so much I mean, there are obviously people around me and we have really good conversations, but I'm often looking at the words of people, who maybe aren't alive very, I'm looking at what did people actually say, like all the quotes, all those different things. And it's like that. And then I can maybe bring that to some of my friends who might not be as awash in the world of words that I am. And then you kind of found that you can offer a word of comfort, or, a word of gratitude, or a word of appreciation, or a word of acknowledgement to another person. And, it kind of works. And then it kind of works both ways. And obviously people were really, I mean, they were great when when my dog died. And it was really just lovely to stay connected with the people who do, who do care. And, I suppose, yeah, you just stay connected. And then once you connect with people, it's to and fro. Some people are up when you're down. Some people are down when you're up. And it's just a matter of just staying connected with people around you, your friends, your family, your community.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need a few. And then
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
So tell us about, what are some of your go-to words? Like, what are these words that light you up or keep you reined in or inspire you? Like, tell me the words that hit.
Well, the one that hits probably all the time is forgiveness.
Hey.
Really, it was the one that hit me big time, I think, when I wrote the memoir, having to forgive the past. And it was always a mantra in the diaries. It said, forgive the past, live the present, create the future. And the forgiveness, the power of forgiveness. I would have quoted, maybe Nelson Mandela, and he would have said, when he was leaving prison after 27 years, if he didn't forgive his prison guards, he'd be forever, in jail. So it's like forgiveness is the one that sets you free from things. You forgive I've had to forgive my mother, for giving me an overdose of aspirin.
Yeah.
No, I took it myself. She did not give me anything.
Oh, okay.
I found it. I found them. I found they were very well hidden, but I was very, I was very,
Very
I was very,
curious.
very child. And different things that happened in life. You have to forgive yourself. You've got to forgive other people, and then just move on. You don't have to forget things, but you do have to forgive it. Forgive it is about moving. It's a gift to the future. And, you have to, as I say, that's one of my big words. And then gratitude, I think, is just, just to wake up in the morning, think, I'm so grateful I'm waking up.
Yeah.
And I'm waking up with all my bits and pieces, everything is working. And just grateful for health, and just grateful for, just the freedom of the country that I live in. It's peaceful. I look around at the world, it's at war. I think, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful. And yeah, I think they're kind of the simple words. And just accept, that, things happen. And to say, Kelly wasn't supposed to die. I thought she'd live a little longer, but she was great while she was here. She was 12. But there is that thing of acceptance. Yeah, they're the simple words.
Absolutely. So I mean, the power in words are really significant, and hence I love podcasting. I love the opportunity to converse, and then more than 5 seconds on social media, we can actually talk and get into what's going on in the world and in our lives. How do you think the words, they're powerful, but how also do you think words heal us?
Well, they are the simpler words. I think, thank you is a very healing word. I forgive you is a very healing word. I love you is probably a very healing word, especially if you've held on to it. It's the words you've withheld, the words you're not going to say. You're not going to give somebody this satisfaction. And then you go up and you kind of say, I'm sorry. Or I really, can we let that go? Or can we get past it? Like, it's just, they're the healing. It's like we're talking about mental health and well-being, and it's a lot of the grudges that we're holding on to, the resentments that we're holding on to, and then the fears, all these things that we build up. And then a word of kindness or compassion or something that allows a lot to heal. And, a lot of us are, as I said, taking, like, writing the memoir was tough. I did have to kind of really kind of go through that healing power, but it was the healing power of words. You kind of say, what word is going to help here? And what word is going to hurt here? We're well used to those two. And, I could throw in a really hurtful word if I wanted to. I think that's not really going to help. I want a healing word now, So I think we're capable of, we're just as capable of healing as we are of hurting. So that's the way I focus it now, on what's really going to, just have the world be a little bit better and a little bit easier for myself and easier for the people, and a bit easier.
I love that. And I think what you're so beautifully displaying is that power of choice, and that you can be intentional with your words, and then understanding the power of what words you do choose. How important for you is it, when you're choosing words for yourself, like your own self-talk, like we've talked about how words impact others, but how is it with the words within your own mind to yourself?
Oh, they're hugely important. They're hugely important. But as I say, like I'm maybe 15, how many years now, dealing with the words in the diaries, and it was like, they're not necessarily my words, but I'm going to take them on because they're really, really good. It's simply like, even like Voltaire, I choose to be happy because it's good for my health.
Yeah.
Like, so, finding those kind of, affirmations are great, but you do have to believe them, and you have to trust them, and you have to kind of be willing to say, well, actually, no, that is actually true. That is actually true, and look at the truth of the words, and then the words that are true for you. So I could say something and it doesn't really ring true, or I can say, I am actually kind of a brave person.
Yeah.
I am willing. I am generous. I am, kind, and I have moments. But really, I am, and I'm capable of, maybe a lot more than, well, certainly than I thought I was. And it's only by, trying it out and giving it a go and seeing how that works, and going and speaking to that person and making that call, and, all those things. And then you kind of find that things open up differently, because your word has sort of said, I'm actually going to phone that person today.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I phone the person. It's like, oh my God, that was a great conversation. So,
it's a beautiful energy exchange across the board. That intentionality, though, has to be like a conscious choice. Tell us about what kind of person's ideal for, your book or this deck. Like, what kind of people should be seeking this, or what kind of people can the book and the deck help?
Well, the book is called The Courage to Shine. And like you said, it takes courage to shine. It takes courage to step into the light. It does. We've all had times when we've, maybe been pushed out onto the stage, or we've got a bit of stage fright or something. And I'm like, oh, I'm never doing that again. I don't want anybody to see me, or, it's like, and it just takes courage just to show up. This is me. This is who I am. This is it. Warts and all. I'm just a regular human being. Gray hair, post-COVID. And it's like, I can't really see very straight now, so now I have glasses, but they can be very fashionable.
Yeah.
So but it takes courage. So anywhere you feel that maybe there's a bit of fear stopping you, or a bit of, something holding you back, I would say, have a read of the book and just see what it takes. And it doesn't take a lot, but it does take, and the book is, hopefully it's got some encouragement. It's, it's a little bit sort of, it's a bit straight. I'm a bit of a straight talker. The pearls are a lot more gentle. The pocket pearls. But I think, in the memoir, I suppose I was just being a bit real, I think, because it's a real life. It was my real life, and I had things to deal with, and I had to kind of apologize to a lot of people, and I had to forgive a lot of people, and I had to forgive myself. And again, I had to forgive my mother. And a lot of it is really around my mother. And, the resentment that I had, because I blamed her. I blamed her for the fact that my life was terrible. And then I thought, my goodness. And when I took back and thank her, I said, oh my goodness, you saved my life. And look at the great life that I have. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
but that took, it took something to give up. No, it really is all her fault.
Right, right. Well, the mother-daughter relationship in
The
any
mother-daughter,
culture or society is
exactly.
very complicated. And I would say the father-son. I mean, these are just very complicated relationships, and
Yeah,
we're all
and
humans, and no one knows.
fundamental
Yeah,
that we can kind of really come to terms with them, our particular experience of our particular parent and parenting and whatever, and then trust that actually they gave us life, and what we did with it was our choice in the end of the day. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you've got all this, the book, Cherry the Journey. What are you excited about when this podcast will come out in 2025? But what are you excited about, what's coming up for your journey or you're looking forward to do? Tell me about like your vision board.
Well, like I said, I got very enchanted there by when I went to Uganda to look at leadership training for women and
Okay.
young women in university. And you kind of feel that, I kind of feel women's voices really are a little bit missing on the world stage. And I think, women, I don't know what it is, it's almost like it's getting more dangerous for women. The more we try and fix it, the more threatening situations are. So it's just very interesting to take that on and see what is it that, how can we lead women to a point where really they are equally empowered as men, and then men don't feel disempowered by the fact that women are now being powerful. And it's just a kind of an interesting exploration now, really, because I think it's a good partnership we need between men and women.
Yeah.
And how do we really communicate better, that we can get the best from each other and just have the best world and do what we're both good at. And so
I
that's kind of maybe looking at that direction
I
for
I
leadership.
love that. Well, you pulled my string now. Now I got to know some intel around this. Like, tell me a little bit more of like, are you going to be speaking on this or writing on this, or how are you kind of empowering women, and then I want to say healing the relationship or comparison between men and women, because we hear this either or like the disempowerment, and like that's not what we want. We want equality where both are showing up equally. That's very much a focus for me in 2025. So I'm very fascinated. Anything else you want to share on that? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, it's about being complementary, really, I suppose. I think equality is a kind of a strange word. I know when they were delivering the leadership program in China, they didn't want to use the word equality. They wanted
Okay.
harmony.
Oh, I love
They
that.
wanted to use
Okay.
harmony, yeah. And it's almost like that kind of, there's a kind of an equal contribution, but it's different. And
Yes.
it's accepting that, there's a certain, as I say, there's a male energy and there's a female energy. And there's all the energies in between. I'm not saying anything one or the other, but it's just to allow that that nobody feels any way threatened by the other, that if people feel, welcomed by the other, embraced by the other. And then what's the complementary? Like, what is the contribution of the other? And can we accept that? And not that resistant, like, oh, I don't want. It's like, no, well, there are things to be gained.
Oh, that's so how I usually explain turmeric and tequila. It's like that seemingly opposing things can harmoniously coexist. I feel like you just explained what it is better than I do, because that's what it is. It's not better
Mhm.
or it's equal to, but equal in the sense that like both contributions are necessary and important while different.
Yeah.
And it's that balance in between. So I'm fascinated. I will very much lean into the workings or whatever you have to become, because I think it couldn't be more on time for 2025, and you see like the rise of women's sports and
Yeah.
women in the workplace, and that's not in every single country and every single landscape.
Mhm.
So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to be specifically speaking to certain countries or certain cultures, or is this just a massive message to the world?
It's just a message to the world. I haven't narrowed it down or focused into anything yet, but who knows
Okay.
what's going to come in 2025.
Okay.
As I say, the visions are there, the vision board is there.
Okay.
And it's my intention to at least get to the UN in New York in March and just see what's happening just what's happening there, what is happening around the world, and just get involved.
I love that. I'm very curious. How do you even get involved with the UN? Like, do you just show up in New York at the UN meetings, or like what? Can you share us with any process on how you do get involved if there's people curious wanting to know?
Well, this was the organization that I actually I've just kind of got associated with this particular woman,
Okay.
Jerry Uberly, and it's the World Academy for the Future of Women, and
Oh,
that's now
okay.
been taken on as I can actually go in that capacity. I'm a facilitator, a trained facilitator for that program, and that's what I was delivering in Uganda. I was delivering module 1 of 8
Okay.
modules for the university students, and so now in that capacity in the World Academy for the Future of Women, and it is really all about that kind of level of leadership, that sort of maybe new leadership, I'm not sure. So that's the umbrella, so I can go as a member of that group. So anybody who is a facilitator for the World Academy or wants to be a member of the World Academy, it's open. It's
Okay.
open. And yeah, it's yeah, so that's an opportunity. So that was a big opportunity for me, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's incredible. I can't think of a better person to be in the mix. I didn't even know this was a thing, and I'll take responsibility on my own negligence. But can you tell us a little bit more about that academy and what it is? That sounds extraordinarily interesting.
Okay, well, it's academy. It's founded by Jerry Uberly.
Okay.
Jerry's in her mid-80s, but she founded it about 10, 15 years ago. And it's just the World Academy for the Future of Women, and it delivers leadership training to university students. It started in, she's American, lives in Arizona, and she started it initially in China, and it's run to the universities there. And she had some major kind of congresses where thousands of women kind of showed up, and then moved and India, Bangladesh, Mexico, and then Kenya, Uganda. That's where it was, the first one in Uganda that I went to.
Very
And
cool.
just that, and it's just, I mean, there's a real kind of an opportunity here now, and a real kind of a hunger for this. And I just think it's an amazing program. I loved it. And so I trained as a facilitator, and anybody can train as a facilitator, and they can contact me. I'll put them in touch, or they can contact you. But the World Academy for the Future of Women, wafw.org, and maybe people could pop into that and see if there's something there just to mentor or facilitate this training, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. You have to be around really amazing human beings. Like, are you pretty humbled in the room? Like, you obviously bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and intel to the group, and are in good company. But man, that's got to be some incredible conversations and fellow human beings on a mission.
Well, yeah. Look, at the mission is we're trying to have a livable world.
Yeah.
We're having a livable world, and there's a lot of stuff facing us. I'm a nature lover. I don't like to see ecological collapse.
Mhm.
We're dealing with all kinds of humanitarian issues, from conflict and from climate change, and obviously we had, I was very proud of the fact that we had a woman president here in Ireland, for 21 years. We had Mary Robinson for 14 years, and then Mary McAleese for 7 years. And that transformed this country. That leadership transformed this country. And now, Mary Robinson went on then to the UN, and now she's one of the elders. And like a lot, it really is. You need to bring some of that wisdom as well into the world, and wisdom needs to come in. We need to be able to communicate wisdom a little more effectively. The world is awash with information, and it's awash with, I mean, honestly, we do not need any more information. AI has that handled for us. We don't need it. We just need to be able to, use the information that we have in ways that kind of, empower people, not have them feel overwhelmed or, lost, that, human creativity, and that people can be, expressed and happy, and,
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be, why does it have to be such a struggle? So I don't know. I just think maybe, maybe women could help, because we wouldn't be so busy sending people off to war.
Yes. Well, we were close in America here, but we're not there quite yet. I completely agree. I'm fascinated. I have a million more questions for you, but I love that you are, again, bringing your personal experiencing, utilizing words to get humans to the next level, to shine their own light, reach their own purpose, and then help on this larger level through the UN, through this women's group, through your everyday routine. I think it's really amazing. My favorite question as we wrap up that I ask every guest that I'm excited to hear what you have to say, but what is success to you?
Oh gosh, really, to me, it's success is kind of happiness, really.
Yeah.
You're kind of happy doing what I'm doing. I kind of feel that's successful. That's successful. I mean, I was successful in my job. I was successful in East. People didn't come to any harm, thankfully. And, but now I just kind of feel there's opportunities for success. You've it's like you set a goal, you achieve it, you kind of get happy about that. That's kind of the little moments of success, like moments of happiness. And it's not so much, I think Einstein said, endeavor to be, not to be a man of value, as in man, but a man of value, or not a man of success, but a man of value.
Yeah.
And I think if we're providing value and if we're enjoying life and we're contributing, I think that in a way is success. We're fulfilling on whatever you said, this divine purpose. And there are little steps along the way of little kind of successful steps. Each step is a successful step.
There you go. There you go. Wise words. I love that. You've got all this experience and everything, and it really does come down to, that the happiness and what you're doing on the regular and finding your purpose. Share us with links or social handles, or where can we find you?
My website is eileenforrestal.com. The diaries are at getupandgodiary.com. The pocket pearls are on Deckable. And the World Academy is WAWF.com. World Academy for the Future of Women. .org. And I'm on Twitter at Shine Up Your Life. And I'm on Facebook at Eileen Forrestal, and Instagram it's Eileen Forrestal.
Let's go.
I'm pretty much everywhere.
As you should be. You got to let the light shine. You got to practice what you preach. I love it so much. Go check out what Dr. Eileen has going on. All of her books and the deck. Everything is really, really cool and useful, practical tools.
The book is on Amazon. The Courage to Shine. It's on Amazon.
Don't leave the book out. We'll put all the links up, but if you happen to be listening in the car and whatnot, I always like my humans to share where to find them. She's got great things going on. I'm excited. This will release in 2025, but I'm really curious on what you're doing with the Academy, and man, it couldn't be more on time for where our world's at. So I know your journey is just beginning and you're letting the light shine. I encourage our listeners to do that. I want to give a thank you to our sponsors, Lux Neuro, Neurofeedback and Counseling. Lux Neuro wants to meet you. If you're ready to transform your life, visit them at luxneuro.com and schedule a consultation. Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. We believe in life skills through sports, so go waterproof your family today. They've got great stuff going on. Dr. Eileen Forrestal, you're an amazing light. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said, I'm very excited to see what you have going on next and leading and being on the front lines of positive, radical social evolution in our world. So go check her out. We are wherever you get your podcasts, and this video will be on YouTube. Again, thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll reconnect soon.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kristen. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.